God. What's up, everyone? It's Thomas with Real Broker here in St. Augustine, Florida, coming at you live every single Wednesday at 8 p.m., going over the market stats and news you need to know about everything about buying, selling, or investing here in Northeastern Florida. And we're also doing a Q&A. I'm extremely sweaty and I'm red in the face because I decided that I should run a couple miles before I did this. And then I had to rush back here. So if you have any questions about that, that's what the answer is I am sweaty. I'm sorry. But I wanted to make sure I showed up for you guys here. So we'll go ahead and get into it. I'll share my screen so you can stop looking at my sweaty face. And let's... All right. So we always go over the market stats. Then we go into more of a national news story, then a Florida news story, and then a local news story. So try to give you the full picture as quick as I can in the short time that I have you here. So what I did is just going into the market data, and I covered this last week, and there's definitely some differences in median sale price and also in closed sales, which I think is an important thing to note. Last week, closed sales showed that we were down 21% from this time last year, and it's been revised. We're still down, don't get me wrong, but we're just not down as much. So in a way, a good thing. So median sales price in St. Johns County is $516,000, which median sales price actually went up from last month, which is good news. Well, good or bad news, depending on what side of the fence you are, by about $15,000. But you can see that really since 2022, it's been around this 500,000, 515,000 mark. It's been kind of just teetering back and forth. But the one interesting thing that you can see is that we had a bigger pop, a bigger spike in prices last year, going up to 545, 527 in the year before, and we didn't really get that this year. So we'll be on the lookout for the next couple months to see how these prices trend if they start going downwards. But technically, we've been going sideways, and year to date, it looks like it's just consolidating. Year to date, we're up. Roughly, 18, 16, roughly $40,000 we're up. So not too bad for the year. But as we start going into the fall months, hurricane season, school's back in session, expect to see those prices start to come down a little bit from that high. May, June, July are typically our peaks every single year. It's when the most real estate activity happens. So if you're looking to buy a home, it might be worth it to wait a month or so, because pretty much that's like how our market's really driven by the school year, because we have one of the best school districts in the entire state. So a lot of activity happens then. So people who, if you're on the market now and you haven't made a major price adjustment, the majority of the buyers that you're looking for have already made a decision. They've already made the move. School starts next week. So, yeah. Now I want to take a look at closed sales. I'll share my screen here real quick. Bam. All right, closed sales. So we're still down year over year, right? So not ideal. And you can see we're even down, in our top of closings with 678 closings in St. Johns County in May. I mean, obviously, we're down for the pandemic years, right? But even if you go to 2019, they had a May of 761, a peak of 782, so roughly 100 homes different this year than it was in 2019. So we're about the same as we were in July of 2017. So is this something to be worried about? I think the biggest thing to watch is how the fall goes, because. And we're going to talk about this in the next news story here. Okay, my thing is working. We're going to talk about this in the next news story. Mortgage interest rates started to trend downward because of the weak jobs report that we had last week. So if that continues to happen, they're expecting the Fed to do a rate cut in September, which then could potentially bring down interest rates even further. So we might be in the low sixes by the end of the year. How does that affect our real estate market? Unsure at this point. We'll see. Typically we have a slowdown. Like I said, school is a big deal. A lot of people move during summer. So normally once we get into August, September, October, it starts to slow down, and then we get a little snowbird pop. End of the year, people want to buy houses, get out of the cold. So if you have that slowing of the market, but then you also have a pickup of interest rates going down, so that brings more buyers into the market. We'll see how this fall plans out, guys. I'm really interested to see. Any questions about this, let me know in the comments below. I'm here to answer your guys' question live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. If you missed it, I see I got a couple people on here now. The reason I'm so red is because I went on a run, and I'm sweaty. So I'm sorry, but I only had like 10, 15 minutes before this thing. If I took a shower, I would have been late, so I'm sorry. But that's what you got to deal with tonight. So Either way, let's go on to the next news story. Let's talk about interest rates, right? We just talked about it a little bit. Oh my gosh, freaking pop-ups. Housing Wire. How much lower can mortgage rates go after Friday's report? So over the past 10 months, we've seen interest rates hit the lowest amount, which is great. Mortgage rates fell 0.18% last week, breaking below the key threshold of 6.64%. Why is that important? Because in the last 3 years, when mortgage rates fell between 6.64%, when mortgage rates fell from 6.64 to 6%, housing demand has improved. Now the question is, can rates go lower? So we're looking at the 10-year Treasury yield, which, and this is where we were talking about before, guys, is now the Fed controls the federal funds rate, which inversely controls the 10-year Treasury in a way. They tend to follow each other a little bit. And then the 10-year Treasury and 30-year mortgage rates tend to follow each other. So just because it happens over here doesn't mean it happens over here. Sometimes their spreads are a lot bigger, like we've seen these past couple of years, but it's potential that mortgage rates go down even further with going under with the weak jobs report, because the weak jobs report happened and inflation's kind of still in the same place, hasn't changed too much. Powell's been waiting on the effect of tariffs to see if, like, hey, should we make a change to the federal funds rate and lower it to kind of spur more economic activity? But if you haven't paid attention, Trump just fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, who probably didn't put the report together, but is the face of the agency, because the past couple months, all the jobs reports initially said this month we had a great jobs, and then a couple weeks later they get revised to like, okay, 100% revision. So they had 200,000 jobs, they had 20,000 jobs, and that happened for 3 months in a row. It also happened last year during Biden's term. So in my opinion, it's kind of like, in today's world with the technology we have, AI and all this good stuff, and just Excel accounting sheets, how do we not have a more accurate representation of how many jobs are created or not created every single month? Not defending what he did at all, probably wasn't a good idea. But it is wild to me that in today's world that we're having revisions like this where it completely changes, like where, hey, the market's looking at the jobs report and they're going to buy or sell depending on that jobs report, and then they get revised either way. And there's months where the jobs are even revised up as well, right? But we're talking about like hundreds of thousands of jobs difference. So either way, that was a bad jobs report, which led to mortgage rates going down, because then that means the Fed is probably going to lower the federal funds rate. They don't have another meeting for like 40 more days or something like that, where they're going to decide if they're going to lower the federal funds rate or not. And that's something we'll see. The main thing the Fed has to do is monitor inflation and also monitor jobs in the economy. So it's the two mandates they have to cover. With both of those things kind of being in check, jobs have gotten worse and the inflation could get a little bit worse, right? We don't know. Tariffs haven't really come into play yet. Will they lower the rate? Poly Market says it's like an 80% chance of them lowering the rate. What do you guys think? You think the Fed should lower the rate? Am I just talking mumbo jumbo? Do we have any questions? Let me make sure. Where's the comments here? Okay, no questions. All right. Any questions or anything, leave them in the comments below. I'm going to go on to the next news story. Okay, so we've been talking about the doom and gloom in the market, home builder sentiment, everything according to the Southeast and according to Florida. It's not been great, right? Major home builders see surprising signs of life in troubled Florida housing market. So, Pulte reported recent gains in Florida, marking a surprising turnaround in the state after several years of slowing sales and falling prices. Pulte Group, the third largest home builder in the nation, said that the net new orders in Florida rose 2% last quarter compared with a year earlier. He said, "We're really happy with what we saw out of Florida. We get buyers from all over the country, all over the world that come to Florida. We also see a healthy mix of Florida people moving within Florida." Let's see. Homes for move-up buyers had jumped 18% year over year, and active adult communities also performed strongly. So, and this is completely subjective, right? I'm just giving you from my perspective here. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm the salesperson, all that kind of. I'm just giving you my honest opinion, like I always do. So, for me at least, I feel my business has been pretty consistent. Could it be busier? Sure. I could always do more work, right? But it's been pretty consistent throughout the summer, but I feel like this last month, even before the jobs report, even before interest rates went down, something changed. I don't know what it is, but my calendar is pretty much booked every single week. I have multiple appointments from people just scheduling on their own from watching this stuff, which is great. And a lot of these situations are people that need to sell in order to buy, which maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not sure. Maybe people get that kind of tension in the air. They're like, oh, you know what, maybe this is my opportunity to sell and buy before the market changes, right? But I've also talked with a bunch of my other colleagues, and they kind of feel the same thing. So I'm not sure. I know the economy and everything doesn't feel that way. I've heard from people here that say that. They're like, hey, you know what? I don't know if this feels like right. And I guess it's all subjective, right? But either way, guys, what do you think about Florida and home prices? Do you think it's sustainable? With the amount of development that you see, with the amount of people that are moving in, new faces in every day, do you think prices are going to go down? If you do think prices are going to go down, how much, right? I was looking at something the other day, and it's like if prices went down 20%, we would still be at levels of like 2020, 2021 affordability, well, in terms of median sales price. We'd still be at like COVID level affordability. Could you buy a house at that point, right? 2020, our median sale price was like $330 here in St. Johns County. Let's say 2021 was probably south of 400, maybe it's probably north of 400 in 2021. So it rose rapidly, right? Could you afford a $400,000 house? Do you think prices are going to fall? I mean, I just showed you it's $515,000 median sale price here in St. Johns County. Do you think prices are going to fall to $415,000? Let me know in the comments below. All right, guys, let's go on to the next news story here. I just bought these glasses. They're hitting me with ads. $85, you get buy one, get two free, and they replace them if you lose them or if you break them. Pretty interesting. Nevin Eyewear. New Florida law bans use of cell phones in elementary school and middle schools. So Florida students will now soon face limits on cell phone use in classrooms after a new Florida law that recently went into effect. House Bill 1105 expands current restrictions, barring elementary school and middle school students from using phones throughout the entire school day. The measure, tucked in a broader education package passed during the final hours of 2025 legislative session. State only prohibited cell phone use during instructional time. This new rule goes further. You know, I also think, like, so this probably rule doesn't really matter, right? Because schools have rules, right? Oh, I didn't mean to rhyme, but they have rules. So many of the schools probably are like, hey, no cell phone policy, no tolerance on that. But for someone to police 25 kids in a room while they're all doing separate things, probably very difficult. Also, I had a, what do they call it? We had to press I was texting back when you had a dial pad, you know, so like I would text onto the table, I'd be looking like I was paying attention, I know where all the buttons was, I could text the whole paragraph. And then to my buddy in the same classroom, we could look at text, you know, so these kids could do it even if it's a touchscreen phone. They're trained on these things, so I don't know if it's going to make much of a difference now that the state has come in and said no cell phones. Kids don't care. But I imagine they're a huge distraction in classes. Oh my god. Especially with the technology they have today, you just make fart noise. I mean, we had whoopee cushions still. You know, now your Tesla has fart noises you can download from the App Store. So, interesting world we live in, guys. Technology. All right. I'm so freaking red and sweaty. It's so funny. Sorry, guys, if you're just watching, I came back from a run and I was like running. I was running late. No pun intended. All right. On the next news story, St. John's $123 million park plan, just one piece of countywide upgrades. So, Silverleaf is getting a sportsplex. Looks like it's going to be a football field with a track, 2 baseball fields, and 3 soccer fields, and something else. What is it? Tennis courts, is that it? Okay. Sportsplex is 5 multi-purpose fields with synthetic turf, 3 multi-purpose fields with natural grass, areas designated for tailgating, ticketing, and food trucks, according to a description of the project. So, Silverleaf, obviously one of the biggest projects here in northeastern Florida. I think it's going to be wildly successful when it's done, guys. I do talk a lot of trash on Silverleaf, if you've watched this show, because it is a massive project, right? It's 16,000 homes that are going to go into, a little pocket of St. Augustine all at once. They're about 4,000 homes in. It's going to take them another 10 years to build the rest of those homes. So but it's probably going to be pretty sweet. I imagine it's going to rival Nocatee in probably the next 10 to 20 years, and it already in a way it does, right? Pricing is, I mean, it's cheaper in Silverleaf for sure, but not that much cheaper than to be in Nocatee. So, but things like this and the more modern amenities as they start to come along, I think will be a solid addition to Silverleaf. And I think this is on top of an additional park and playground that they're putting just in the right next to the school in Silverleaf. They're putting a park and a library right next to there. So, I mean, that's different, kind of a different area, but that's close to that as well. So, a lot of good options here. All right, guys, no questions yet? Cool. Well, good, because I want to get off and take a shower. So we're going to keep going. We got 2 more news stories here. The next one is actually, I have a video coming out on Saturday. But if you're a local or if you're moving to the area, I think this is really important for you to know. But let's talk about this other news story, and we'll get right to it. This is just going to be a quick one, but I'm going to do a video on this as well. St. John's County Clerk releases new Tracking Your Tax Dollars report for 2024. I'm just going to put out a video about taxes here and understanding it a little bit better. But they now have a report which just goes over to the guide gives our residents a clear, easy to understand look at where their tax dollars go and how they're being used. It's all about transparency and public trust. And if there's one thing that our local county government doesn't have, I would say. Now, I trust our local county government. I know a lot of people that are involved with it, and I think for the most part everyone's trustworthy. But the Facebook groups in St. Augustine don't feel that way at all. They accuse a lot of the commissioners and a lot of the local government being in developers' pockets and taking cash bribes and all this kind of stuff. That's very possible, right? Just show me a little bit of evidence. Give me something, right? But either way, most people can't do that. I'm a conspiracy theorist. There's definitely levels of corruption. But here's also something that's going on with our local government and our state government that you guys need to know about. If you haven't heard about this, Stop the Stink St. Augustine, stopthestinkstaugustine.com. There's a meeting tomorrow, Thursday, August 7th at 5 p.m. at R.J. Murray Middle School. It's a Florida Department of Environmental Protection meeting regarding the renewal of Indian Head's permit that was announced. Here you can talk to the FDEP regarding the situation and address your comments and concerns as well as whether you should believe the permit should be approved or denied. Now, if you're not familiar with what's going on in the area, Indian Head Biomass Facility, which is I think it's right over here, off, oh my god, what was that? 214, it's right over here. Apparently affects all of these neighborhoods. St. Augustine Lakes is going to be like over here. You got Morgan's Cove over here, and Trotta over here off 207. And then the middle school, Murray Middle School, is right over here. Osceola's over here. I live like right over here, so I'm just outside of this radius that they put on here. But Indian Head Biomass has been a biosolids treatment facility since 2018. Locals around, there wasn't much development around 2018 at that time. Then all these new construction neighborhoods have gone in there, and people have started to complain en masse, like, hey, why do I smell shit? What's going on? And it's because the Indian Head Biomass Facility is processing biosolids, which is essentially human wastewater, waste solids. So there's been a big petition, a big to do on Facebook and GoFundMe's, and even Aaron Brockovich, who is apparently a celebrity paralegal and environmentalist, has gotten involved, wrote an article about it. Wall Street Journal has wrote an article about it. St. John's Citizen, our local newsletter, has been on it. It's a real thing. They're having issues there, and then Florida Department of Environmental Protection went over and said, like, hey, what's going on? They looked at everything, and they gave Indian Head Biomass, like, hey, you're doing this wrong, you got to fix it. So apparently they're doing it, and the smell has started to go down from what I've seen in the local Facebook groups, right? This is not me talking, I'm just telling you what I've seen in the local Facebook groups. So we'll see what happens here in the future. But you can go to the GoFundMe, you can go to this website, find all the information. it's also a gray area right now between the county and the government, because you would think, like, why isn't St. Johns County stepping in, right? Like, they're here, they're our local government. Well, there was apparently a law in 2023 that was passed that doesn't allow St. Johns County to step in somehow. Makes sense, right? There goes government again. I don't know, but I have a video coming out on it. Stay tuned for it on Saturday. What do you guys think about this? Do you live in the area? Do you smell shit? Smell it. I live outside of there. I put a whole bunch of families in those neighborhoods, and I've only had one complain, and that was just recently. And my sister's moving into St. Augustine Lakes this month. I told her about this, of course, but we've never smelt it as we've gone there. But apparently it has to be like, from what the news story said, it's like when the wind is right. Like, people wait for the wind to change, and they're like, I'm going inside, because they know it's coming. So, I don't know. I'm there a whole bunch in all those communities. I obviously don't live there, but I've never smelled it. So, we'll see what happens. Stay tuned for the video on Saturday. If you've smelt it or you live in the area, let me know in the comments below. I believe it's real, 100%, because the Facebook comments, there's 1,200 people that have filed complaints to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. So it's real, right? There's no doubt about it. But now the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is saying, you know what? Odor is subjective. This guy doesn't smell it. This guy smells it. This person doesn't smell it. You know. So now they're saying like, we don't want to do anything. So that's why they want people to go to like the permit thing tomorrow at R.J. Murray Middle School. So either way, guys, I'm sweaty. I'm red in the face. I gotta take a shower. We got 7 people on here. Appreciate you guys being here. Any questions about what I covered, throw them in the comments below. I try to come back and answer everything. If you need any help looking to buy, sell, or invest, have any questions about the real estate market, reach out to me directly or schedule an appointment with the County link and all the details and all the comments and everything below. And yeah, see you next week. Have a good one. Have a good week.